Hi, my name is River. I live off-grid in a 19-foot diameter yurt. I've been at the camp filming quite a bit the last couple videos, so I wanted to just answer the most common questions that I've gotten about my financial situation and the logistics of moving into the yurt while I'm out on a walk. You'll see the yurt in the video if this is your first video and you're like, what yurt? What is a yurt? Here you go. Here's some yurt. You can watch the video about me setting it up, and you can also watch the video that I just posted that's a tour. Okay, I'm going to answer the most commonly asked questions in the shortest possible way first, and then I'm going to go into details in case you don't want to listen to the details, which I know probably won't help my watch time, but whatever. So fast as possible, did I buy the land that I live on? No, it is my close friends' family's land. Do I pay rent? Yes, I do. I pay $500 a month, which is the least I've ever paid in rent in my entire adult life. Do I have a job? Yes, I have 2 jobs and have self-employment income. No, they are not remote. No, they're not social media influencing. No, I don't make a very high salary. Other most commonly asked question, what did the yurt cost? The yurt itself, it's used, cost $3,000. The platform plus the stove I bought for another $1,000, but the platform kind of sucked. I ended up putting another $1,000 into it in materials and another $1,000 into that in labor to have Jai help me build it. So I ended up spending $6,000 in total on the yurt. Okay, let me flesh out those answers a little bit. The farm that I live on is my friend's family's farm. I met her like about 6 years ago, and we both lived in Seattle together. She still lives in Seattle but comes to visit the farm a lot, and she started taking me to visit the farm maybe like 2 years after we became friends, and I went out multiple times to volunteer, to just spend time out there, and I completely fell in love. I even fell in love with the drive there, how beautiful it is going through the farmland. And probably like 3 years ago, the parents of the family invited me and my ex-husband to move out there. My ex wasn't really interested, had a business in Seattle, and he didn't want to leave that, or at least not without like more of a transition exit strategy. Also, the property is not fenced, and we had 2 dogs. Romeo, who you'll see in all my videos, is with me, and he's, super bonded to me. He's the type of dog that can be off leash anywhere. He never runs away. And our other dog, Rune, is the type of dog who will run away at any given time. And the property is not fenced. We could have easily invested money in building a fence. So that's not really like a super concrete reason why we didn't take that offer. It was mostly because my ex didn't want to. And we did talk about potentially buying land next to the property and moving there in the future. But with our financial situation, which never was really getting any better, we were never able to save money for a variety of reasons, but the cost of living in Seattle is definitely a big part of that. For all of those reasons, we had no concrete plan to move to the property anytime soon. When my ex asked for a divorce, I called a meeting with the family and asked them if their offer still stood, and I told them I had found my yurt on Craigslist and that I had less than a month to move in, and they said, welcome to the family, basically, welcome to the property. They gave me the choice of a couple spots on the property to set up the yurt. I chose one, and I bought the yurt a week later. My ex helped me move it to the property. It's the last thing they ever helped me with. And then I had Jai, the oldest son, I paid him to build me the platform, and I moved in on my birthday, actually, which is in the middle of June. I had some friends come help me set it up. So that is how that happened. I talk about sort of my financial situation more in the first video that I have about building the yurt, in terms of like details about how I moved in and how I got the money together. But the shortest answer of how I got the $6,000 together to move in is I maxed out my credit cards. I took cash out of my business, which is like an event business, which usually has a cash bank float of around 3,000, and I just put all of my income towards the yurt and put all of my expenses on a credit card. And I also got some help with moving expenses from my community, some crowdfunding as well. I got about $500 from my community, which was awesome. That's the cost of the yurt and how I moved in. And it doesn't bother me that I don't own the property at all, because my dream of property ownership has always just been about the ability to live with the land in nature, be able to build my own house eventually, to be able to have horses eventually, to be basically in a position where I can't just be kicked off if I get sick, to not have to like pay an exorbitant rent every month. All of those things are actually more achieved. That's not a good verbiage, but I actually am able to achieve those things better without owning the property myself. Just to flesh that out for you, if I bought my own property, I would be paying a mortgage. That mortgage would probably be a lot more than I'm paying in rent. And I now have the added security of, if I were to have something happen to me, like if I were to get injured, or I don't know, a family member was sick or something, I feel pretty confident that if I was in an emergency and I needed to stop paying rent for a short period of time in order to like get back on my feet, that I could negotiate something with the family that I live in, which is not something that you could do with a mortgage with the bank. You also have to pay property taxes when you own your own property. In the future, maybe I will save up enough money to buy one of the adjacent properties to the one that I'm living on now and do that. But at the moment, I feel like my problem, so to speak, of wanting to live off grid and live with the land is solved. So I don't really feel any strong need to do that. I also don't really believe in land ownership in general. If anything, land is, should be under the stewardship of Indigenous people. And the family that I live with are very good stewards of the land. It used to be basically considered worthless, and the parents of the property bought it in the 80s after spending a couple years living in a tent on one of the adjacent properties where their friends live, and they were able to save up for the down payment, and they're still paying off the house. They're not rich by any means, but they've always known that they want to be able to have generational wealth in the form of family property that all of their kids can come back to and invest their time, money into, and all of the adult children in the family are very invested in the property, including pitching in money to buy up adjacent properties, and they've created like a land trust with each other. And they're all really wonderful. I truly love and adore all of the kids of the family, as well as the parents and their cousin, who's kind of like an additional family member as well. They have a lot of like long-term family friends that are around the property all the time, and it really just is a community vibe, but also in a very like organic way. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being a part of a intentional living community or commune. If I didn't have the opportunity that I have now, maybe I would be a part of something like that. But it is nice that these people all have like blood ties and like very long, or the friends of the property, even though I'm the only friend who lives there. Some of the other friends may want to buy some of the adjacent properties or a piece of the land and get involved, and they all have a very long-term relationship with the people on the property. So it's just like a lot more stable than when people of like all kinds of different backgrounds and experiences are trying to like agree on what to do together, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's kind of like all the details about the property, at least the ones that are the most relevant. Let's see, my jobs. So I have two like main jobs. I have one W-2 job I do 2 days a week. I'm a bartender. I have a 30-minute commute each way to the closest small town that actually has like a grocery store and stuff. It is kind of convenient that I work there because I can also do my grocery runs and whatnot while I'm there. I get free food a lot when I work there because I'm bartending at a restaurant. I do get off work really late, but I also work nights for my other job as well, which is as a I'm going to stop for a second because the leaves are really crunchy, which is as a adult entertainer in Portland. I'm super open about what I do. I am not ashamed of what I do, but I'm not really going to talk about that very much on this channel because all of my other social media accounts are very much about pole dancing. I'm also a pole dance instructor. I work regularly at a studio in Portland as well as guest teach around the Pacific Northwest, and I even have a YouTube channel on here. You can look it up if you want to. You have to type in the whole thing. You have to type at a river dancing, all one word, to find it. But yeah, I'm just gonna like try to kind of like separate out that part of my professional and creative life from this channel, even though I'd love to, you know, combine them more often, because it's basically just a recipe to lose your monetization or get shadow banned. And even though I'm not monetized on here right now, I would like to be in the future, and I would like to not be shadow banned for sure. The majority of my money does come from being an entertainer, but if the job I do, bartending, is not bad money. I make about $30 an hour after taxes, and I just walked into a spider web. I'm also self-employed and have my own business outside of being an instructor as a dance photographer and videographer, and I also produce events, and that's where I got that cash from to buy the yurts, is from my float from my event company. And I saved up another float for the event I ended up doing at the end of the summer. Because my rent is so low and my expenses are so low living out here, I do pay a lot more in gas, but yeah, basically I was able to pay off all of my credit card debt. I maxed my credit card out to $13,000 at the beginning of this journey. It was already at like $11,000 at the end of, or 12, I can't really remember, 11 or 12,000 at the end of my breakup, because I was the only one in our family who had a credit card. We weren't able to get loans as a business, so I was basically taking on all of the debt on my personal credit card. Horrible decision, never doing that again. But yeah, I was able to pay all of that off, as well as I had to buy a new computer because I had a desktop before this, and you can't plug in desktops, and I don't have electricity, so I needed a laptop to do my photo and video editing. And I also had to pay a huge vet bill for Romeo recently. So the $13K plus another $5K in like major unexpected expenses. I basically was able to pay almost $20K, like $18K of credit card debt and expenses over the summer on top of my regular living expenses, and I'm now no longer in debt for the first time in like a very, very long time. So that feels amazing, and I feel like I'm finally able to like have financial goals again and plan ahead, which is amazing. Some of my financial goals include next year I'm going to build a new platform and move my yurt over to a different part of the property with this abandoned hunting cabin I'm about to renovate and have access to both of those. I want to build a gazebo over the old platform that's for dance, like a pole dance gazebo, which has been a dream of mine. Eventually, I want to have a horse and a mule and be able to go pack trail riding with them. That's going to be like years in the future. And I also just want to have like a really big emergency savings. And by really big, I just mean like, I don't know, maybe $5,000. I've never had a savings my entire adult life, like over 1,000. And after just like all the financial insecurity that I've been through, it would just really be good for my mental health to have that. So I would love to, it would be amazing to monetize my YouTube channel and, you know, get enough support on Patreon that I can not do my other jobs as much, especially next year, if it was possible to do that before next summer so that I can do more nature stuff. That would be amazing. But even like this summer, I did 2 camping trips. They were both related to a pole retreat that I did. I have a video of one of the hikes I did from there up to Sprite Lake. But yeah, I only was able to do 2 camping trips, which is a bummer. I was working all the time and I was trying to keep my expenses really low. But because I live in this rural area where I'm at right now, and where you're gonna see some clips of me playing around in the river, it's really close. It's like a less than 15-minute drive from my house, and I came here and to other spots that are within a 15-minute drive almost every day. So even on days when I was working, I was able to go swimming and for like a 6-mile hike with my dog, and that kept my mental health in a good place, even though I was working my ass off all summer to pay off debt and kind of missing out on a lot of things that I wanted to do in the summer. So yeah, I'm just like super, super grateful. When I lived in Seattle, we paid $2,000 a month for rent, and we often were paying over $300 a month for utilities as well. And it was just so expensive. And there's nowhere that I could go swim within 15 minutes. Like, you could swim in Lake Washington, but you have to check and see that there's no algae blooms. It's super polluted. Your dog can literally die if they swim or drink the water while there's an algae bloom. It's just like not ideal at all. And now I swam more this summer than I have probably like the last 3 summers combined, which, like, swimming, playing around on rocks, jumping under waterfalls, those are like some of my favorite things in the whole world. And yeah, being already out in a rural area makes it a lot easier to access those things without having to do like a whole weekend warrior situation. Final thing I want to add is that the family has said that they are down for me to build my own house on the property later on. Obviously, that's going to be a huge project, not only for me to build up my skills for, but also for me to save up money for. And I want to be super intentional about it because I only want to build myself one house. I've been researching natural building techniques since I was in high school, and I want to build a natural building, meaning I want to build it out of all natural materials. I don't know if I'm going to do cob or clay or wood or what I'm going to do, but it's going to be epic. And yeah, that's really like been the biggest dream of my whole life, is to be able to build my own house, and specifically a naturally built house that is self-sustainable for power, water, etc. So that is really exciting, and there's not really that much else I could ask for. Actually, the last thing I want to add, since I've been in high school, I've been aware that we are catapulting off the edge of climate disaster, and it's been really important to me to root myself in a place, in a community, where I feel like I can, if not survive whatever comes next, at least be relatively happy for as long as possible, and to be able to help other people. And I do feel like part of my calling is to help feed people. Farm produces a lot of food. It could produce more food. I would love to spend more time doing that. I'm going to create a new garden for myself on the piece of the property that I'm moving on to. And everybody in the family is, including the parents, when they bought the property in the 80s, they bought it in consideration of having a place for all of their family to be for the upcoming climate disaster. And as someone like me, whose parents, I think, maybe now believe in climate change, but are conservative, still believe that it's okay to use Roundup, are barely getting on board with the difference between like organic versus not organic, didn't believe in climate change until very recently. It's very healing for me, and also makes me feel very secure being in a community and with the family of people who are all on the same page about the crisis that we're in and what we all want to do about it together, and how we want to live together outside of the overculture and what the overculture is saying everyone should do, which is just go about like it's business as usual. And for me, a big part of living off grid and wanting to buy my own house and set up my own solar eventually, and create my rainwater catchment system and all of that, and grow my own food, is to try to protect myself and my animals and my friends and my family from the impending doom of everything, the impending collapse of global systems. And I think that there is still time for humans to turn things around when it comes to our extinction, but I do think that we need to be moving towards an energy descent future, which is basically like we are an energy descent future, which means like we've already hit peak oil. We have the fossil fuel party we're not acting like it's over, but it is over in terms of resources. And we as a society need to be moving towards living with less resources, less material things, and creating a new culture where we prioritize good food, culture, music, dance, art, taking care of each other, being in community over consumerism. So I have felt for the last like 10 years of living in Seattle, when I've been trying to figure out a plan to get out, I've felt trapped. I've been like up at 4 a.m. crying, feeling anxious all the time because I know what's coming and have been trying to adjust my lifestyle since I was in high school and haven't been able to figure out how to do that. So yeah, I feel like my mental health has vastly improved since I moved off grid, and the discomfort and the inconvenience that I'm dealing with, first of all, will be not quite as intense as I improve my setup, but also I'm happy to trade some discomfort and inconvenience for existential dread. I think that covers everything. If you want to donate to my Patreon, I'm going to link it below. That will enable me to make more videos and do more cool things, and also help me fund the renovation of the hunting cabin, which is also going to cost money, although I'm going to try to just do it cheaply and slowly. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope me walking and talking isn't too annoying. Helps me keep my thoughts going. And yeah, I'll see you next time. The cold is not the worst part. The worst part is how slow I have to go through the cold because of these rocks being really tiny and painful and slippery. Jesus Christ. Oh, okay. Okay. Woo! We did it. I almost walked across that like a double time on the last time to get the shot of me walking across it, but no, that is not something I want to do 4 times. 2 times or 3 times. 2 times is enough.